Hi, Rhett the Best here again. I'm tried to I'm trying a different thing. I'm trying a different recording thingy in a different room to see if it works better. Hopefully it will. My phone may ring. Yeah, it's an old cell phone, I know. My sister and I are fighting, so I'm passively aggressively not answering my phone. See? So, anyway, this is video 2 of my favorite series. This book here is called The Gospel of Loki by Joanne Harris. It's really good. It's a retelling of Norse mythology from Loki's point of view. And he's kind of witty, sarcastic, kind of a jerk, but good kind. Anyway, the series that it's a part of, it's a prequel to the Runmark series. The Runmark series is basically an alternate universe where if the Norse gods were real and Ragnarok happened, what the world would be like now. So, I'm going to read the foreword and lesson 1. It's very short. The beginning chapters are really, really short. It's split into it's split into sections, and each section has the lessons that Loki learns. So, first is this list of characters. I'm not going to read those, even though some of them are really funny. Like, for instance, Manny, the moon, drives a cool car. Sol, the sun, drives a hot car. I'm not going to read all of them, but some of them are really funny. But anyway, forward to the Gospel of Loki. I know a tale, O sons of earth. I speak it as I must, of how 9 trees gave life to worlds that giants held in trust. Okay, stop. Stop right there. That was the authorized version, the prophecy of the oracle, as told to Odin Allfather by the head of Mimir the Wise, and dealing in 36 stanzas with all the history of the 9 worlds from Let There Be Light to Ragnarok. Pretty neat, don't you think? Well, this isn't the authorized version. This is my version of events. And the first thing you have to understand about this little narrative is that there is no real beginning, or real end, for that matter, although, of course, there have been many of both. Multiple endings, multiple beginnings, woven together so tightly that no one can tell them apart anymore. Endings, beginnings, prophecies, myths, stories, legends, and lies. All part of the same big carpet, especially the lies, of course, which is what you knew I'd say, me being the father and mother of lies. But this time it's at least as true as anything you'd call history. See, this is the thing about history. His story. That's all it is, the old man's version of events, which basically the rest of us are supposed to accept as the undisputed truth. Well, call me cynical, but I've never been one to take things on trust, and I happen to know that history is nothing but spin and metaphor, which is what all yarns are made up of when you strip them down to the underlay. And what makes a hit or a myth, of course, is how the story is told and by whom. Most of what we know as history came to us from a single text, the prophecy of the oracle. It's an old text, in an old language, and for a long time it was pretty much all the knowledge we had. From beginning to end, the oracle and the old man had it all worked out between them, which made it all the more galling that we only found out what it was really meant when it was too late for all of us. But we'll get to that soon enough. Sticks and stones may break my bones, as they say in the middle worlds, but with the right words you can build a world and make yourself the king of it, king or even god. Which brings us back to the old man, the master storyteller, keeper of runes, lord of poetry, scribe of the first and the last times. Creationists would have us believe that every word of his story is true, but poetic license was always the old man's middle name. Of course he had lots of names, so do I, and because this isn't history, but mystery, my story, let's start with me for a change. Others have already had their chance to tell their version of events. This is mine. I'm calling it the Lokabrenna, or in rough translation, the Gospel of Loki. Loki, that's me. Loki the Lightbringer, the misunderstood, the elusive, the handsome, the modest of all this particular tissue of lies. Take it with a pinch of salt, but at least it's as true as the official version, and, I dare say, more entertaining. So far, history, such as it is, has cast me in a rather unflattering role. Now it's my turn to take the stage. Let there be light. And the last several words are, let there be light. Okay, you can't see that. It's like, let there be light. Like that. See? Not sure if you can see it, but anyhow. Book 1. Light. This was the first age, Immer's time. There was no land or sea, just void between two darknesses. Darknesses? Okay. No stars by which to see. Prophecy of the Oracle. Lesson 1. Fire and Ice. Never trust the ruminant. Lokabrenna. All of us came from fire and ice, chaos and order, light and dark. In the beginning, or back in the day, there was a fire coming out of a hole in the ice, bringing disruption, turmoil, and change. Change isn't always comfortable, but it is a fact of life, and that's where life as we know it began, as the fires of the world below pierced the ice of the world above. Before that, there were no middle worlds, no gods, no folk, no wildlife. There was only order and chaos, then, pure and uncorrupted. But neither order nor chaos is very hospitable. Perfect order is immovable, frozen, unchanging, and sterile. Total chaos is uncontrolled, volatile, and destructive. The middle ground, basically lukewarm water, created the perfect environment for another kind of life to emerge from the frozen wildlands and volcanoes erupting from under the ice. The authorized version goes like this, supported by the Oracle. From the meeting of order and chaos there came a giant being called Ymir, the father of the ice folk, capitalized, and a cow, old Homla. I'm saying that completely wrong, just so you know. No idea how to say it, but I'm saying it wrong. Who licked at the salt that was in the ice and brought out of the first man Buri. From this, I think we can all conclude that the cow was the primary instigator of everything that followed. War, tribulation, the end of the world. Lesson 1. Never trust a ruminant. Now the sons of Buri and those of Ymir hated each other from the start. It didn't take long for them to go to war. Buri's 3 grandsons, the sons of Bor, their names were Odin, Vili, and Ve, finally killed old Ymir and made the middle worlds, and from what was left of him, the rocks of his bones, the earth of his flesh, the rivers of his steaming blood. His skull became the firmament, his brains the clouds, his eyebrows the division between inland and outland. Of course, there's no way to prove this. Let's face it. Rather unlikely. Let me try that sentence again. Of course, there's no way proving this. Let's face it, rather unlikely hypothesis. All of the possible witnesses have disappeared, except for Odin, the old man, the only survivor of that war, architect and chronicler of what we now call the Elder Age, and, as it happens, the only one, except for me, to have heard the faithful prophecy delivered to him by Mimir's head when the worlds were fresh and new. Call me cynical if you like, But it all sounds a bit too convenient. The authorized version of events leaves out a number of details which creationists seem to ignore. I personally have my doubts, not least about the giant cow, although even now you have to be aware of how you express these sentiments. At one time, even to suggest that Odin's account of things might have been metaphorical instead of literal would have resulted in cries of heresy and a good deal of personal discomfort for yours truly. Yours truly. Which is why, even then, I was always careful to keep my skepticism to myself. But that's how religion and history makes their way into the world, not through battles and conquest, but through poems and kennings and songs, passed through generations and written down by scholars and scribes. That's how, 500 years later or so, a new religion with its new god came to supplant us, not through war, but through books and stories and words. After all, words are what remain when all the deeds have been done. Words can shatter faith, start war, change the course of history. A story can make your heart beat faster, topple walls, scale mountains. Hey, a story can even raise the dead. That's why the king of stories ended up being the king of the gods, because written history and making history are only the breadth of a page apart. Not that there was much of that when Odin was fighting the ice folk. There were no runes to write with then, nothing but rock to write upon, but metaphor or otherwise, this is as much as I believe, that the world came into being through change, which is the servant of chaos, and only through change has it endured, much like your humble narrator, in fact, adapting to suit the circumstance. The snow hare changes its coat to white to go unseen in the winter. The ash tree drops its leaves in fall, bitter to survive the cold. All of life does the same, even gods, turning their coats to suit the turning seasons of the world. There should be a name for that kind of thing. In fact, it should be one of my names. Let's call it revolution. And then it goes on from there, all the way down through Ragnarok and the cause and all of that. It's really good. There's an audiobook of it in the UK, I think, and it's also in the US, and the guy who does it pronounces the names much better, I can assure you. Anyway, comment. Tell me what you think. Read the book, it's really good. I don't like the first two books in the series as much. Loki does make an appearance, but it's rather boring in my perspective, especially the second one. It's kind of slow, but I mean, come on. The Gospel of Loki is great. You should read it. It's amazing. It's wonderful. I read it the first time, went back, read it again, and then I found the audiobook. And then I listened to the audiobook while I was driving back and forth from school, and I liked it. And then I found out how to discovered how to pronounce the names, and then promptly forgot. But anyway, read it. Comment. Tell me what you think of my little stories. Well, not stories, technically. It's me reading stories. The videos of me reading stories. Tell me what you think of me reading stories. And see if this audio and stuff is better. Okay? Okay. Bye!